September 29th, 2023. U2 takes the stage inside a 366-foot ball in the Nevada desert, and every critic who walked in skeptical walks out converted. The outside is covered in 1.2 million LED panels. Inside, a 270-degree screen wraps around 17,600 people. Everyone calls it the future of entertainment. It cost $2.3 billion to build. It has lost $1.18 billion since the lights came on. The Sphere is the highest-grossing concert venue on the planet right now. So how does a building making more money than any other venue in the world lose over $1 billion? And who exactly is picking up the tab? To understand the money, you have to understand the man. James Dolan is the executive chairman of MSG Sports, which owns the New York Knicks and the New York Rangers. Two franchises with the single biggest financial advantage in professional sports, playing in New York City at the world's most famous arena. Between them, those two franchises have won 2 championships in 50 years. Dolan has been called the worst owner in sports by multiple publications. He sued fans for holding up protest signs at Knicks games. He used the arena's facial recognition system to ban lawyers whose firms were involved in lawsuits against him. This is the man who decided to spend $2.3 billion building a giant ball in the desert. The idea started around 2015. Not a better arena, a completely new category of experience, where architecture, technology, and entertainment merged into something nobody had built before. The original cost estimate was $1.2 billion. That number was disputed almost immediately. By the time construction began in 2018, the projected cost had already climbed to $1.66 billion. By 2023, it was $2.18 billion. By opening day in September 2023, the final number landed at $2.3 billion, nearly double where it started. Construction wasn't clean. Dolan fired the 2 top executives overseeing the project, citing ballooning costs and delays. The prime contractor, AECOM Hunt, was terminated in December 2020 and filed its own lawsuit seeking $7.1 million in unpaid fees. Cost consultant Ryder Levitt Bucknall sued for $3.1 million, also claiming they were never paid. Inside that lawsuit is one detail that tells you almost everything you need to know about how this project was managed. According to court filings, Sphere executives ordered the world's longest bar to be built inside the venue. They built it. Then Dolan walked through, decided he didn't want it, and had it torn out. The consultant who worked on that project never got paid. That's not a construction overrun. That's a $2.3 billion vanity project being run like a renovation. You change your mind about halfway through. Shareholders noticed. Investor lawsuits accused Dolan of hiding the true cost of the Sphere from the public, arguing he deliberately downplayed the rising budget to push through a favorable merger between MSG Entertainment and MSG Networks on terms that worked for him. Dolan settled those suits for $133.5 million. Then, in April 2025, Chief Financial Officer Gautam Ranji resigned. Short tenure, no public explanation beyond the company's standard line that it wasn't the result of any internal dispute. He left in the middle of some of the worst quarterly losses the company had ever reported. The company claims everything was fine. The timing suggests otherwise. What you have here is a pattern. A project that nearly doubled in cost under direct executive involvement. Contractors walking off the job unpaid. shareholders deceived about what the building actually cost, a chief financial officer gone inside a year, and a settlement check for $133.5 million that gets paid and then quietly disappears from the conversation. The building itself is genuinely extraordinary. The technology works. People who experience it say there is nothing else like it on Earth. If you have been inside the sphere, drop it in the comments. What you paid, what you felt walking out, whether it was worth it. That gap between what it costs and what people actually experience is the whole story, and I want to hear it. But the math between what it cost to build and what it takes to run it is where the story gets interesting. The numbers coming out of that building right now do not add up the way anyone predicted they would. Start with what they built, because you cannot understand why the losses are this bad without understanding what it actually costs to keep this building alive. The interior screen runs at 16,000 by 16,000 resolution, wrapping 270 degrees around the audience. It is not a screen you watch, it is a space you are inside. The audio system uses 167,000 individual speaker drivers arranged in a beam-forming array, meaning sound gets directed to specific seats rather than blasted across a room. Two people sitting next to each other can theoretically hear different audio. The haptic seats vibrate on cue. The building can deliver scent. It can change temperature. Every piece of that technology was invented specifically for this one structure, because nothing like it existed before they broke ground. That is part of why it cost $2.3 billion. You were not just paying for a venue, you were paying for the research and development to make the venue possible. And the revenue reflects that investment. In 2024, the Sphere grossed $420.5 million from 1.3 million concert tickets, making it the highest-grossing venue in the world, beating Madison Square Garden, which has been doing this for decades. Postcard from Earth, the original immersive film Darren Aronofsky directed specifically for the space, crossed 4 million tickets sold by mid-2025. Those are numbers most venues would consider career-defining. For the Sphere, they were not enough. Operating losses in year one alone hit $500 million. By the time SEC quarterly filings through 2025 are added up, cumulative losses since opening cite at roughly $570 million. The company is carrying $1.5 billion in total debt. Revenue is coming in, but the gap between what this building earns and what it costs to run is enormous. The electricity bill for 1.2 million exterior LED panels alone is staggering, before you factor in staffing a venue that employs up to 3,000 people, and continuously producing custom content that costs millions per project. That gap has not closed. There are signs the initial surge is softening. Concert tickets that sold out immediately in the first months are now available the night of the show. The postcard from Earth ticket price dropped from $119 to $99. Revenue dipped 1.9% in the final quarter of 2024. And the company missed earnings forecasts. None of those numbers are catastrophic in isolation. Together, they describe a building that launched at peak hype and is now settling into the harder work of sustaining an audience. The first quarter of 2026 did produce the first quarter of positive operating income, $7.2 million adjusted. That is a real number. But it sits on top of $570 million in accumulated losses that do not disappear because one quarter went green. You need a lot of $7.2 million quarters to dig out of a hole that deep. Then there is the part nobody leads with: MSG Networks, a regional cable and satellite TV company, is legally tied to Sphere Entertainment through the same corporate structure. Cable subscriptions are collapsing across the country, and MSG Networks is losing money as that collapse accelerates. The company has warned that if MSG Networks cannot refinance its debt, it may need to seek bankruptcy protection. So you have one business with a real future, a genuinely new form of entertainment that audiences respond to, being dragged down by a legacy cable operation that was already dying before the Sphere opened. One failing business pulling on the ankle of the one that might actually survive. Dolan addressed all of this directly when he told investors, "I wish that the day we lit it up, we knew exactly how to run it." But that is just not the case. He called it the first pancake problem, the idea that you learn on the first one before you get it right. That's a reasonable metaphor. It's less reasonable when the pan cost $2.3 billion. His answer to the losses is not to fix the original. It is to build more. So Dolan's solution to $570 million in losses and $1.5 billion in debt is to export the model before the original collapses under its own weight. In October 2024, Sphere Entertainment confirmed Abu Dhabi as the site of the second Sphere. Same size, same technology, fully funded by the Department of Culture and Tourism. Sphere Entertainment does not spend a dollar on construction. They collect franchise fees, licensing revenue, and content royalties, while Abu Dhabi builds the box. In January 2026, a smaller version was proposed for National Harbor, Maryland, near Washington, D.C., seating around 6,000. By April 2026, talks were underway about a 20,000-seat Sphere in Tokyo. The pitch is straightforward. The $2.3 billion you already spent on inventing the technology gets spread across every new location. Each venue is cheaper because the hard part is done. Content produced for Las Vegas plays in Abu Dhabi and Tokyo without additional production costs. On paper, it is a sensible franchise play. The problem is, it requires the Las Vegas location to survive long enough for the second one to matter. And the city that location sits inside is quietly losing the people who kept it running. LVCVA data shows visitor volume was down every single month of 2025, ranging from 1.1% to 12% below the prior year. Strip occupancy dropped 3.2 percentage points year over year. Then, in January 2026, Strip gaming revenue fell 11% year over year, landing at $747.6 million, the steepest monthly decline in roughly a year. Meanwhile, gaming revenue for all of 2025 stayed essentially flat despite those lower visitor counts. The math on that combination is telling. Fewer people came to Las Vegas, but the casinos made the same money. That only works if the people who did show up spent significantly more per trip, which means the Strip is not growing, it is concentrating. Trading volume for value and hoping the high-spend visitor shows up consistently enough to cover a cost base that was built for mass traffic. The Formula One race is the clearest illustration of where this strategy leads. The 2023 Las Vegas Grand Prix generated $1.5 billion in economic impact, according to the Applied Analysis study. A year later, the 2024 race dropped to $934 million. That is still a large number, and the average Formula One visitor spent around $2,400 per trip, excluding tickets, nearly double what a typical Las Vegas visitor spends. But small businesses along the Strip filed lawsuits against Clark County and Formula One, claiming millions in lost revenue from construction disruption and blocked access during race week. The economic benefits flowed to Liberty Media, global sponsors, and the major resort operators who could absorb the disruption and capture the spending. The neighborhood businesses, the restaurants and shops that depend on foot traffic from regular visitors, got the construction and none of the upside. That is not an accident. It is the direct consequence of rebuilding a city around an event tourist who drops $2,400 on a race weekend and then flies home, instead of the visitor who comes 4 times a year, stays mid-strip, and runs $200 through the slots every trip. The regular visitor is not the target anymore. Room rates in 2025 averaged around $196 per night on the Strip, still well above the $140 to $150 range from 2019, even after a 4.7% pullback from the post-COVID peak. Resort fees at major properties have climbed to $45 to $55 per night, up from roughly $30 to $39 before the pandemic. The 45 to 64 demographic that built this city's revenue model over decades is running the same calculation. Every repeat visitor runs eventually. The trip costs more, the floor feels emptier, and the room is not worth what they are asking for it. Allegiant Stadium, Formula One, the Sphere. None of these were sold as a replacement strategy. They were sold as additions, new engines layered on top of a city that already worked. But visitor volume falling every month of 2025, while gaming revenue flatlines, is the first hard data suggesting the trade-off is not neutral. You do not replace a broad base with a narrow one and call it growth. You call it a bet. And right now, the Strip is waiting to find out whether it pays. There is a comparison Dolan supporters reach for when the losses come up. The Sydney Opera House went 1,400% over budget, nearly destroyed its creator's career, and sat half-empty for years after opening. Today, it is the most recognizable building in Australia. The Sphere could follow that same arc. It's a fair point, and it might even be right. But the Sydney Opera House did not open inside a city that was simultaneously repricing its own customer base out of existence. The people caught in the middle of this transition are not abstract. They are the casino workers, whose tips thin out when fewer regulars are on the floor. They are the small business owners who filed lawsuits against Clark County because a race week they had no say in cost them 3 months of revenue. They are the repeat visitors who did the math, decided the room rate plus resort fee plus food cost did not pencil out anymore, and booked somewhere else. Whatever the Sphere eventually becomes, those people do not get a refund while they wait for Dolan to figure out the franchise model. The structural problem runs deeper than one venue. The Sphere was built for the tourist Las Vegas spent the last decade deliberately manufacturing. The ultra-high spend event visitor who flies in for a weekend, drops serious money, and leaves. That visitor does not gamble in any meaningful volume. They do not stay at mid-tier properties. They do not eat at the restaurants that depend on walk-in traffic from hotel guests who wander the Strip looking for somewhere cheap and good. The broader ecosystem that employs tens of thousands of people across the valley runs on volume and repeat business, not on a rotating cast of premium one-time visitors who are here for the spectacle and gone by Monday. Gaming revenue staying flat while visitation falls is not a sign of health. It is a sign that the industry is successfully extracting more from a shrinking pool and celebrating the extraction as if it were growth. That works until it does not. A cost base built for 3 million visitors a month does not quietly resize itself when 1 million of those visitors decide the trip is not worth it anymore. The fixed costs stay. The staffing stays. The debt service on every property that borrowed against a pre-COVID growth projection stays. Fewer visitors spending more per head is a short-term patch on a structural problem the Strip has not publicly acknowledged yet. Dolan is trying to franchise his way out of $1.5 billion in debt while the city his venue depends on is quietly hollowing out its own foundation. Both of those problems compound each other. A weaker Strip means fewer tourists who might stumble into a Sphere show. Fewer Sphere shows means the franchise case gets harder to pitch to Abu Dhabi and Tokyo. Neither problem has a clean exit. The Sphere did not cause any of this. It did not raise room rates, build a racetrack over local businesses, or decide that the 45 to 64-year-old gambler who kept this city solvent for 70 years was no longer worth the floor space. But it is the most expensive and most visible proof that the people making decisions about Las Vegas's future were never thinking about that gambler at all. Strip gaming revenue is down 11%. Visitor volume is lower every single month of 2025. There are $570 million in Sphere losses, and the man behind all of it is already designing the next one. Las Vegas built its identity on the idea that it could reinvent itself without losing the people who loved it. Right now, it is doing the reinvention. It is losing the people. Subscribe if you want to keep tracking where this heads next. Which properties are most exposed, and which operators are already running out of runway?